Hello and welcome back to the movie theater lobby, everybody. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Leia.
And Leia, this was supposed to be our first monthly iteration
It
of
is
the
our
episode,
first monthly.
but it's the next week after our last episode where we said we were going monthly.
Yes, but this is the start of the monthly.
It is. So anyway, let's just get right down to it, right? So
Sure.
We are trying to be a lot more
To the point.
A lot more to the point. Yeah, which is exactly what I'm not doing right now.
Right.
So brevity is going to be the name of the game here. We're going to cut a little bit of the fat where Brandon just gets to be a little too much.
Just you?
Mostly just me.
Okay, well, mostly maybe.
Scale it back a little, Brandon. So let's get right down into this, right? So Leia, what movie are we talking about today?
The Birdcage.
Indeed. The Birdcage came out in 1996.
Why are we talking about the Birdcage?
Oh, because it's June.
Yeah.
June is known as...
It's Pride Month.
Pride Month.
Yeah.
To put this movie on Pride Month, it's funny because it is kind of acknowledged by the LGBTQ community as a great movie, fine and fun. Some people have a problem with it, some don't.
Mm-hmm.
But it
is culturally significant, I think.
It is. In the time it came out in the 90s, you did not see this sort of representation on screen, at least character representation.
Not with this kind of heart, at least, yeah.
Yeah. There were a few others before it. I believe Tu Wong Fu came out before. I believe Priscilla, Queen of the Desert came out before. But none of them really got the notoriety.
They didn't,
The big cultural spotlight that Birdcage got.
Right, yep.
So this is sort of important from that
perspective. Yep.
So anyway, Birdcage, Armand and Albert. Albert. It's an odd pronunciation I just did. Albert, who they run a popular drag club in Florida, in which club Albert, or Albert, as some people call him, is the star attraction. The drag performer name of Starina.
Starina.
Quite the performance she puts on.
Yes.
Armand happens to have a child from a previous relationship, and his son, Val, comes to visit, which is not terribly unusual, but it's uncommon enough that they're a little surprised, and lets them know he's getting married. Turns out his fiancée is from a conservative Republican family. The father of that family happens to be a prominent Republican senator. So Val believes that his parents, Albert and Armand, will not necessarily be accepted by his fiancé's family.
They don't want the senator to be uncomfortable.
Right. God forbid that anybody make a Republican uncomfortable.
Yes.
So Val comes up with the genius idea.
Or stupid idea.
Yeah. Hey, parents, why don't we scale it back a little bit? Why don't we de-gay your apartment?
Yeah, de-gay it.
And then why don't we tone down your mannerisms and your lifestyle to the point where you're not you anymore.
All to make a Republican senator comfortable.
Which, honestly, that's not worth anyone's time.
No.
Because fuck them. So Val's asking them to be traditional, to be moral and Christian.
Which is, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whole other can of worms.
Anyway, from that point on, of course, Leia, let's just let the hijinks ensue and be done with this.
All right.
Yeah. So fantastic. There's Brandon's version.
That fast.
Brandon's version of a short plot.
Way to go, Brandon.
Mm-hmm. So Leia, let's really briefly, because that's our new word of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And if we've learned anything from Pee-wee, when we hear the word of the day, we scream real loud.
No, we don't.
No, we don't do that. Let's talk about the cast and crew real fast.
Okay.
And move on to something interesting.
All right. The director-producer's name was, and I say was because he passed away in 2014.
Yeah.
But his name was Mike Nichols.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know he was the director of The Graduate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He's been directing for a long time.
He has been. Well, he passed away when he was in his 80s. So, I mean, and that was in 2014.
Yeah.
So he did The Graduate, Postcards from the Edge, Regarding Henry, Closer, which was a little bit later on. And then I think the last one he did was Charlie Williams War. So they're members of the Compass Players. He, along with a woman named Elaine May, they helped start Second City Improv out of Chicago.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really famous people that, of course, have gotten their start with Second City. Just to name a few big names, I mean, John Candy, John Belushi, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Chris Farley.
Yep.
And then even a little more recently, you got Jordan Peele, Keegan-Michael Key, Stephen Colbert, Jason Sudeikis, Amy Poehler. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Yeah. So while he isn't listed as one of the founders, he did help create that Second City improv group. They also later then, he and Elaine became a comedy duo, so to speak.
Yep.
So they did a lot of stuff, have in the past done a lot of stuff together.
Yeah, a pretty close partnership. They did have a bit of a falling out for a bit.
Yeah,
but
as a lot of creatives sometimes do.
It tends to happen.
Yeah.
But they did reconcile and were working again back together for a few more projects.
Yeah.
I also did want to mention just one last thing about Mike Nichols. He and his brother escaped Nazi Germany in 1939.
Did they really?
His father had already been here in the States.
Oh,
so they escaped Nazi Germany and came here.
Harrowing, man.
And his mother joined them all very shortly after that.
Wow.
So, yeah. That is impressive.
That is crazy. So he definitely, I mean, he has definitely been around a long time.
Yeah, he has.
He was actually involved as the director for the 1983 Broadway adaptation of La Cage aux Folies, which is the original production. So it was a play, and then they turned it into, they were going to turn it into a movie in 1983, and then he got fired from being the director from the producer Alan Carr, but then he ended up getting the rights to do the movie in 2016. So.
Yeah, he was
kind of like an in-your-face kind of a thing.
Yeah,
like,
he really wanted to make this movie.
He really did, yes, yeah. He also did a lot of his research for the film by attending drag shows in Chicago and in Savannah. And then he actually went to a drag show in South Beach. And that's when he decided that the film setting should not be in New Orleans, which is what the, I think, original adaptation was.
Yeah, the original adaptation, yeah.
Yeah. So they decided to do it in South Beach instead. Because of that experience that he had.
Yeah, I think it was a good setting.
Yeah. He also did not originally have both Robin Williams and Nathan Lane in mind for the roles. He actually envisioned Robin Williams and Steve Martin, but in the roles of Albert and Armand, respectively.
Yeah, so kind of backwards.
Backwards, yeah. But Robin Williams he wanted to play, he'd already done something really flamboyant
Mrs. Doubtfire.
with Mrs. Doubtfire. So he wanted to play Armand instead. Yeah. And then that's when they brought Nathan Lane in because Steve Martin wasn't able to do it.
Right.
So. And later he regretted it. He wished he had done it.
Because he never again had the chance to do something with Robin Williams.
Yeah, I never did a movie again with Robin Williams, and he regretted not being able to have done something with him.
A true icon.
Yeah. I did talk about Elaine May. She's she adapted the screenplay of the 1978 French film La Cage aux Folies, which was an adaptation from the 1973 play of the same name. The only thing she really changed, I mean, it was pretty much the same, but the major things she changed was that she changed the names of the characters. George's name was changed to Armand, and Albin's name was changed to Albert.
Pretty close.
So pretty close. She also adapted the plot line about like the potential in-law characters as being conservative, moral majority politicians. At the time when she was kind of coming up with these ideas, we were addressing a lot of right-wing anti-LGBTQ sentiment in the news. It was all over the place. And so she kind of wanted to bring that piece into the film. So.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a time when the studio had said, hey, I don't know if we should be doing this sort of parody of the right-wing
because it could be bad
style.
Yeah.
And I believe Mike Nichols at the time said, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it, because by the time this movie is actually released in theaters, they'll be parodying themselves.
Yes.
because the Republicans were making such fools of themselves.
Yeah. It was a good point, too. So let's talk about a couple of the actors here real quick.
Sure.
Of course, we got to talk about Robin Williams.
Well, of course we do.
Armand Goldman. He started with Mork and Mindy, of course. Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poets Society, which we had actually already mentioned, I believe, maybe in the last episode
with Sinister.
He was in Hook. I love that.
Yeah,
he was
that's
actually
a good one.
Peter Pan in Hook. Fern Gully, Aladdin, to name a couple animated films that he'd done. Of course, Mrs. Doubtfire, we already mentioned. 1 Hour Photo.
Yeah, that was a good one. I really
That was
liked
a
1 Hour
weird
Photo.
one. That was a weird one, but it was
It
so
was,
good.
yeah, it was weird. But he played such a great turn. That was sort of during his really dark phase.
It was,
He
yeah.
had Insomnia, 1 Hour Photo,
Death to Smoochie.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in Robots and Happy Feet.
Mm-hmm.
So he did a couple more animations.
Just such a great voice for animation.
Yeah. Toward the end, for his death, he did both the Night at the Museum and then the sequel.
Yep.
Robin Williams did play a gay character again in the films The Night Listener and Boulevard. And then I had mentioned Death to Smoochie, where he actually plays a homophobic. He also had a scene in Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. He was uncredited, but he played John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think I recall who that was.
It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, it has. But he's also been Law & Order Special Victims Unit.
Oh.
Had to bring that up.
Wow, all right.
Yes.
That's, good catch.
Yeah.
I would not have expected that.
No.
I would not have expected him to join into that weird little subset of entertainment.
Well.
So, of course, mentioning Robin Williams, we got to talk about Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
He played Armand.
He did play Armand.
And really such a Steen sealer.
So I think it says something to be able to come up against Robin Williams and still hold your own. Every time he was on screen, he would steal the show.
Mm-hmm. Can I just say, I do realize I just said Steen sealer.
Steen sealer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scene stealer is what I meant to say.
I
had to correct that.
Scene stealer.
Yeah.
When you said it.
Anyway.
You hear what you want, I guess.
Moving on.
He actually had not come out as officially gay when he did this role. This wasn't his first movie role, but this was like the first movie role where he got a lot of notoriety for it. But he had not actually come out yet as a fully gay individual.
Speaking of scene stealing, Hank Azaria.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
He was an over-the-top caricature. So I should mention, he played the character Agador.
Yes, Agador Spartacus.
Who was he a live-in
Yeah,
maid
he was like a
of
live-in
sorts?
maid. And he cooks in here, but it's not what he was there for.
a live-in domestic assistant.
Yes, there you go.
Right. He did say that he had kind of two versions of the character that he was working on. It turns out that his friends that he had run it by said, "Oh, do the over-the-top one because we know people like that in our experience." And he
represents part of the community. Yeah. He did actually end up continuing that character in several episodes of The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. So he came under fire in The Simpsons also for
the Apu character.
The Apu character, yeah. Toward the end, people were starting to go, wait, that's a little racist,
you know?
Let's
maybe change this up.
Yeah. That's what happens as we progress in society.
Yeah, we come to realize that there are faux pas that sometimes we make, but when we realize our mistakes, the good people fix them.
Yeah. Mike Nichols actually cast Hank Azaria after seeing him in the quiz show. I just had to bring up because we had an episode
did cover
about
a quiz show, and he did such a great job in quiz show.
He did.
It wasn't overtly comical.
No, it's a little funny.
It was a little bit, yeah. But to see him in a much more dramatic spotlight was sort of interesting.
You know, on his 30th birthday, Hank Azaria, he was working on the film Heat, which was done in 1995. So he would work on that until 6 a.m., and then he headed to this movie set. Mm-hmm. When Mike Nichols found out that it was his birthday and that he had been working for 18 hours straight.
It's a long day.
he told Hank, like, go home.
Yeah.
You need to go home.
Have the day off.
Have a day off.
Treat yourself.
Yeah. That's some commitment.
Yeah, it is.
I did want to also mention Gene Hackman. Unfortunately, Gene Hackman had just passed away not long ago in February, and he's the one who plays the Republican senator.
Yep.
One of the things he thought was so great about this film was all the improvisation that happened, and he wanted to be in a film where he could get back to doing improv because he used to do a lot of improv. But there is a scene where he's climbing down the ladder and he's given the peace sign like Richard Nixon. Yep. Funny enough, Gene Hackman was on Nixon's enemy list back in the 1970s.
Yeah, good company.
And
with Robert Redford.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's given those peace signs and I don't know if that was improv or not.
That, from what I understand,
probably
it was. Yep. There were a few other roles that we're just going to mention. Callista Flockhart, Diane Wiest.
You know, Diane Wiest was actually she was in Robots with Robin Williams. And 48 episodes of Law & Order.
Oh,
and Law & Order SVU.
We should just mention Dan Futterman. He played Val.
Legs.
Oh, of course.
We had some long legs.
Yeah.
6.79.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
For a comedy.
This did really well.
Yeah, it did.
To be honest. So when I saw the budget, I was like, ooh, $31 million was the budget. And when I saw the budget, I was like, oh.
A little worried.
They probably didn't do too great, right?
Yeah.
No, they did just fine.
They did wonderful.
They did just fine. Domestic box office was $124 million. And then worldwide, they did about $185 million. Opening weekend, they did $18 million. So almost, they made about a little over half of their budget just in the opening weekend alone. So, and then it stayed in the top for the next 3 weeks before the film's Primal Fear and A Thin Line Between Love and Hate kind of took it over.
Yeah. So the rule is kind of the unspoken rule is for a film to be considered a financial success, you have to double your operating budget.
Sure.
So that way, not only do you make back what you spent to produce the film, but it also covers licensing fees and other marketing that may not have been wrapped into production costs and all sorts of other little things.
Yeah.
So at least that way they can.
That.
Yeah, right. So obviously, great job, Birdcage.
Yeah. As far as awards, this film, it did quite a few nominations. It did win Screen Actors Guild Award Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. There were some criticisms about the film from the gay community because of the stereotypes of gay people in the film. But Nichols had mentioned that he felt that this film did not reflect the gay community as a whole. And he actually had said, and this is a quote, that our jokes are about divas, about the theater, and about the stars. And some critics responded as if they were about gay people in general, and that just isn't so.
Right.
It wasn't, this is all the gay people. And even Nathan Lane had mentioned that this is a love story, and it's about a family who raises their child right and what they're struggling with, and it's their specific story. Not all gays.
Yeah, exactly.
So it got a lot of really positive acclaim, but some of the criticism came from people thinking that it was blanket.
And
this is all gays.
I can see, especially at the time, I could see how it would be kind of worrisome for the portrayal that it's sending out into the world, because it did get such a spotlight.
It did, yeah.
And the LGBTQ community at the time was still very repressed. Everything had to be secretive because of the way the culture was.
Yeah. But the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, or GLAAD, praised the film for actually going beyond the stereotypes to see the character's depth and humanity. And then it says the film celebrates differences and points out the outrageousness of hiding those differences.
Right. If this movie were to be made now, you would see a cast of LGBTQ actors.
All LGBTQ, yeah.
At the time, had that happened, I don't think this film would have had the success that it needed to have.
No.
And I think by having Robin Williams in particular in the role, it helped at least legitimize the film in the more closed-minded
communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, nobody knew Nathan Lane was gay either.
Right.
So,
exactly. Yeah. So, at the time, from an outsider's perspective, there was no LGBTQ actors in the film. Obviously, now we know at least Nathan Lane is a very proud member of that community.
Yeah.
It still brought a positive spotlight to a community.
Yeah. Did you read how Nathan Lane kind of came into this role? He was actually already committed to starring in the Broadway production of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Nichols convinced the producer Scott Rudin to actually postpone the musical.
Yeah, that's a big favor.
Just so that Lane could be in the film. There's actually another connection to that production, because there's a song that Armand and Catherine is the egg donor, I guess you could say, Val's mom, biological mom. They sing this song called Love is in the Air. And actually, it was a song that was actually cut from Stephen Sondheim's musical A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. So it was originally supposed to be the first number in the show, and it was replaced by a song called Comedy Tonight, which was actually sung by Nathan Lane in the 1996 Broadway revival. So, and he actually won a Tony Award for it as well.
Ah, good for him.
Yeah.
Nathan Lane, quite the improviser. So is Robin Williams.
So is Robin Williams.
And of course, Gene Hackman wanted to get back to some improvised.
He did, yeah.
So I had read that it was required that everybody on set do at least one take.
One take that was
written.
not improvised.
And then after that, go nuts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I could just imagine Mike Nichols. Hey, give me one take.
Just one.
Just one on script.
Yeah.
After that, have fun.
Yeah. So speaking of that improvisation, there's actually a scene that's like a goof. And I went and watched it again because I was like, nah. And it's actually funnier now that I know that it's a goof. But there's a scene where Robin Williams is in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
He's freaking out.
Yeah.
Where's the dinner? And he grabs the soup off the stove and starts walking out. He slips and falls. Hank Azaria's throwing the shrimp in the pot.
Yeah. Fuck the shrimp.
Fuck the shrimp. Not scripted.
No.
But they said as soon as that scene was over, man, everyone lost it. Because it was so funny.
You can even hear Robin Williams starting to crack.
Yeah.
during the take. And it
makes that scene funnier.
Every time I've watched it, I've noticed him starting to crack. This was the first time that I've realized that it wasn't meant to be that way.
Yes, you thought he was just cracking under the pressure, but he was actually having a hard time keeping the laughter out.
Exactly.
One of the things we had discussed was the fact that we both felt Val was actually the main antagonist in this film.
One of my talking points was, who's the bad guy here?
Who
Val?
was really the bad guy?
Or Senator Keeley?
Because I feel like it's Val.
I do too.
Yeah, and I feel like he redeems himself and becomes a better person at the end. But he's really the one where throughout the whole film, we're both looking at him going, I've never really thought about how much I dislike this
What an ungrateful jackass.
No, he's like, that's his parents, and he's telling them to not be who they are.
Exactly.
Because he's embarrassed by them.
Yep.
What?
All to impress someone's father.
And it makes you see the Republican senator in a different light. Because while he is a jackass, and he is very like family. No one ever gave him a chance to accept these people.
Yeah, he didn't know that these people were gay.
No.
He didn't ask for them to be changed.
No.
Of course, he didn't know, but he didn't ask.
But he was never given a chance.
No.
And I feel like that's not fair.
Right.
Because, I mean, maybe he would have liked them so much. He would have it changed his mind.
And
opened his view.
The funny thing is once the reveal happens, and sorry for all the spoilers here, folks. I suppose we should have said something.
Well, now you did.
But once the reveal happens that they are a gay couple and, they run the drag club downstairs, Senator Keeley is offended.
He is. I think he's more offended that they all lied to him.
Is it more offensive to him that he was completely lied to
Bamboozled.
about everything?
Yes.
Or is he genuinely disgusted by their lifestyle? It may be a mixture of both.
It could.
But genuinely to me, from the observing point, it seems like he's offended by the complete ruse.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Why would you do this? Yeah. Like, you knew who I was. Like, you really thought you were going to be able to keep all this up.
Yeah, right? What would happen after they get married? Now all of a sudden you're just going to allow me to be offended the rest of my life?
Yeah.
That's sort of a jackassy
too.
swindle.
Yeah, jackassy swindle.
So yeah, I think we both agree Val is kind of the antagonist here.
He's the villain.
Then I would like to hear back from our listeners too. I mean, what's your thought on it? I mean, is Keeley in the
certainly
theme
not
of the film,
guy.
he's an antagonist.
Yes.
But he's not the main antagonist.
No, I think you're meant to think he is. But if you really think about it, I mean it. And it's your own child. But your own child shouldn't be asking you to change. Shame on you. So, your mother would be disappointed.
Yeah,
Wait.
No, his mother wouldn't be. Do you think this film is dated? And we kind of already covered that. How if it were made today, it would be made differently.
Yeah.
Do you think any part of it is offensive? And I think we already covered that idea as well.
We had discussed how we could go both ways on that.
Yeah.
Like if you think about when the film was made, like you had touched on, I think it was a good choice that they did not have an all-gay crew. Now, that's not to say that I don't think that should have happened.
Yeah, no, I still think they should have cast an all LGBTQ cast member.
But would it have reached the audience that it reached?
I don't think it would have.
Would it have opened some of the doors that it may have opened to people being a little bit more understanding?
After this movie, it really did open the door to other on-screen LGBTQ relationships.
Yeah, and I think it paved the way for LGBTQ actors to come out, to play those roles, and to feel a little bit more comfortable in those roles. If Robin Williams can do it as a straight guy, I can do it for certain.
Yeah. I do think that there was a spectrum of representation. I mean, you had Hank Azaria as the very over-the-top personality, which is very much a minority
it is,
in the LGBTQ community. Then you had Nathan Lane, who was a kind of a step down from Agador.
Yeah.
But he was who he was proudly.
Which
is great.
Absolutely.
I honestly, I thought was my very favorite character in this movie.
I want him in my family.
Yes. He always wanted to be him, but he always also would have done anything for Val.
Anything, yes.
And
which is why it's so heartbreaking.
That was the other problem, too, is when Val asked him to not be him, he was like, okay, I understand, let me try. But then when Val said, I just don't want you here, that's when he was really offended.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Rightfully
you're not letting me even try to help you. You're just omitting me.
Yeah.
You're hiding me.
Yeah.
Which is
like some kind
gross.
of dirty secret.
Yes. Yeah. And then you had a very...
Armand.
You know, he was a very not flamboyant I mean, they're all just people.
Yeah.
No necessity to categorize them.
No. But that's what happens when people start criticizing the film back in 1996. That's what they were doing.
I mean, when I was not dating another guy, but we were,
messing around.
We had
Were you messing around, Brandon?
And he was very much in the style of the Robin Williams personality.
Yeah. This should get done again.
I think
but updated.
Yeah, I think it's worth a revisit, especially given the way that culture seems to be regressing.
Yeah.
Now.
You got to admit, we still have plenty politicians who are just as disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
So this is relevant today. Just as relevant today as it was in 1996.
I think either this movie or another one like it needs to come and just kick down the fucking door again and say, you can try to erase us from the culture in your mind, but we're not gone.
We're not going away, man.
It was an important film for when it was released. It's still a fine touchstone. But yeah, I
laughed a lot during this film.
It's such a funny movie. I love this one so much.
Let's close up the lobby.
Let's close it up. Let's get in. Let's get out.
Let's get in, get out.
Get people on their way.
That was the whole point. We were trying to shorten this up a little bit.
Trying to be brief, which is something I'm really not good at ever.
No. Be somebody you're not.
I'm trying really hard, and it actually is difficult.
Yeah, right?
I'm sure you've noticed. I just can't shut up. So anyway, getting people the hell out of here, right, Leia?
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Wrap this shit up. Find us at themovietheaterlobby.com.
Which might not be around much longer.
We're keeping it up for now, but we might revamp that too.
Yep.
Everything's revamping.
We may have another type of website.
Kicking down these old slats, putting up some new ones.
Yeah.
Seeing if we can make some other things work.
Yes.
Having a little fun over here. And if anyone has any suggestions on what we can do differently, please let us know. Movietheaterlobby.com for now. And movietheaterlobby@gmail.com to get in touch with us if you got a lot to say. If you have small bursts to say, find us at the Movie Lobby on Blue Sky.
Which is not going away ever.
No, that'll be sticking around. Even if we close the doors on this podcast, we're still keeping that up.
We're still keeping that up.
Because we have a lot of fun with that. And we're not letting anyone else get in that space. That's ours.
That's ours. That community is pretty fun.
Yes, it's so much fun. I love it when you guys chat with us over there. Please keep that up.
Yep.
In fact, knock that up a few notches if you want. Anyway, find us at the Movie Theater Lobby on YouTube to find the podcast with a logo video.
Yes.
There's no actual video.
No.
I mean, something's on your screen. It's just a picture of this thing. Anyway, find me, Brandon, if you want to, on Blue Sky, BrandMC at bluesky.com. And Leia, how about you?
You can find me, Leia McClevey, at LM Nerdroom at all of the previously mentioned socials, as well as email me directly at lmnerdroom@gmail.com.
Indeedy do. So now, thank you, Leia.
Well, thank you, Brandon. And thank
you,
the listeners.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
There we go. We shook that up, too, at the last second.
You got to tell them what we're going to watch next month.
Before we see you next month, understand that next month we will be talking about
Jaws and Sharknado.
Oh, yeah. We're kind of smashing them together a little bit.
We're smashing them together. And this is all because July 14th is Shark Awareness Day.
Indeed. Got to be aware of them sharks.
Be aware of them sharks.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. It's fine. It's a shark, goddammit. And it's all right. Stop crying. Damn you. What are you standing there for? Go. Go. You better let it go. Damn it. Fuck the shrimp.